Shedeur Sanders is the kind of quarterback who forces hard conversations. Rare arm talent, clear on field production in college, obvious charisma and marketability, and a draft slide that raised all sorts of red flags for NFL teams. Put another way, he's a high upside, high uncertainty asset. That's exactly the profile of player you trade for when you want a potential long term solution without burning your future on a guaranteed win now rental. Below, I break down the three teams you listed: Colts, Rams, 49ers, and give a practical read on fit, trade calculus, upside, and the Browns' perspective if they decide to move him. Indianapolis Colts, why it makes sense and what stops it. Why it fits. The Colts have pieces that make a developmental QB appealing: a strong run game potential, established receivers, and a franchise infrastructure that historically has been willing to pivot quickly at quarterback. Shedeur's strengths: accuracy in short, intermediate reads, timing, pocket feel at times, and playmaking mobility, would pair well with a team that can take pressure off his rookie level decision making by leaning on the run and using play action. He'd also get the benefit of building chemistry behind a relatively gentle rookie ramp rather than being thrown immediately into a vertical, high volatility offense. Trade cost and obstacles. Indianapolis is probably not willing to mortgage high first round capital for a swing at upside. They'd be looking at a second round pick plus a young depth piece at best. The real obstacle is the Colts' own willingness to commit time. Do they view him as a developmental guy or a competitor to Richardson, if Richardson is still there? If ownership is impatient, or if the Colts think they're one starter away, they might be reluctant. Bottom line: high fit, moderate trade price. Good landing spot if Indianapolis believes it has time to develop rather than needing an immediate number one. Los Angeles Rams, immediate upside, complicated timeline. Why it fits. The Rams offer Shedeur top-end pass-catching talent and a coach, depending on staff continuity, who can scheme to a quarterback's strengths. He'd step into an environment with veteran mentors, assuming veteran starter remains, and a receiver room that could mask early mistakes while the QB grows. From a pure talent exploitation standpoint, learning with and learning from a veteran starter while throwing to elite receivers would accelerate his on-field development and visibility. Trade cost and obstacles. This is the catch. The Rams are a win-now franchise. Trading for Shedeur implies either A, having Stafford fully healthy and using Shedeur as a developmental backup, or B, a more aggressive move that signals a near-term rebuild. The Rams would likely pay more in draft capital if they think they're buying a possible franchise QB who can step in sooner rather than later. Also, the optics of moving a polarizing prospect into a major market could be a public relations win, but also a distraction if the kid isn't ready. Bottom line: high upside and great supporting cast. But the Rams will demand clarity on timeline. Are you converting depth into immediate competition, or are you swapping for future upside? That raises the trade price. San Francisco 49ers. Scheme fit, but practicality questions. Why it fits. Kyle Shanahan's system has been fantastic at maximizing athletic, improvisational quarterbacks who can process the play action and make quick reads on the move. Shedeur's mobility and feel for timing could thrive in that scheme. The 49ers also stockpile talent at skill positions and have elite coaching, giving a young QB a top-end environment to develop. Trade cost and obstacles. The 49ers' biggest barrier is practicality. They've been built around continuity and have a pretty defined plan at QB. If they believe a marginal upgrade is possible, they'll trade for high-confidence assets. But Shanahan typically wants quarterbacks who fit his very particular processing style. The fit is great on paper, but the 49ers may hesitate to change course unless they're convinced Shedeur is a can't-miss candidate. Price would be high, likely multiple mid-high picks, because San Francisco doesn't trade for projects without near-term upside. Bottom line: excellent scheme fit, expensive, and only likely if the 49ers believe they can accelerate a championship window with him. What the Browns should demand and why trading could be smart. From Cleveland's viewpoint, Shedeur is an asset who has both upside and outside marketability. If the Browns believe Joe Flacco or whoever wins QB1 is the starter and they can't afford to carry 4 quarterbacks or want roster contract flexibility, moving Shedeur for multiple picks and a young player makes sense. A realistic return for a QB like him, considering draft slide and perceived concerns, maybe a firm second rounder plus third rounder plus a young rotational player, edge like WR, or a higher single second and a conditional pick tied to playing time slash starts. The Browns should resist single mid-round offers. Package value is where they win. Risk calculus for the Browns. You trade potential star upside for immediate roster certainty and draft capital. Keep him develop. You must carve out reps, possibly stunt roster flexibility, and weather public pressure and a fan base. There's real value both ways. If the Browns think Shedeur won't be given an honest path to the starter role this year, trade leverage increases. Which team should aggressively pursue him? If you make me pick one ideal trade destination, I'd target the Colts. They have the immediate roster structure to protect and develop Shedeur, run game, solid skill group, and the institutional patience to let him grow. And they'd likely pay a fair price without breaking the bank. The Rams are tantalizing from a talent perspective, but their timeline and payroll construction complicate matters. The 49ers are the perfect schematic fit, but only if they're prepared to pay a premium and potentially pivot their QB plan. Final thought. Shedeur is a classic boom or bust asset the NFL market loves when the price is right. Any suitor must be honest about timeline. Is he a one-year stopgap, a developmental project with eventual starter upside, or a high upside starter day one? Teams that clearly answer developmental starter with time and have supporting weapons and patience are where he should land. For Cleveland, the core question is simple. Do you believe you can let him grow into a starter here without hamstringing the roster? If the answer is no, trade him to a patient team that will. You'll get picks and free yourself to win now. Imagine falling down the draft board, flashing in preseason, then finding yourself stuck behind veterans, and suddenly the rumor mill says you could be traded. That's Shedeur Sanders 2025 in a nutshell. He seized the moment in his Browns debut with 14 of 23 for 138 yards and 2 TDs, showing he can move an offense when given the chance. Cleveland Browns, but the Browns' quarterback room is crowded, and reps have been sparse. Analysts even noted unusual practice drills where Sanders was forced to throw to equipment staff to get reps, a clear symptom of limited opportunity. That odd visual helped fuel whispers that Cleveland might be open to moving him. If the Browns decide to trade Sanders, these three teams make a ton of sense. First, the Indianapolis Colts. Indianapolis has playmakers and a run game that can mask a young QB's growing pains. Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman Jr., and a physical offensive line give any passer a better chance to breathe. The Colts' QB situation has been messy, and reports link them to potential trade conversations about Sanders. He'd step into a room where he'd instantly be the most dynamic dual-threat option and could thrive in a system built around balance and play action. Newsweek second. The Los Angeles Rams. The Rams are still in contention, but rely on Matthew Stafford, who's aging and dealing with durability questions. LA has elite weapons, Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, and a creative scheme that could accelerate Sanders' development. In LA, Sanders could be apprenticed under Stafford's veteran tutelage, then gradually take over packages before becoming the long-term answer. It's a high-reward, relatively low-risk move for a team chasing a Super Bowl window. Third, the San Francisco 49ers. Kyle Shanahan's offense elevates quarterbacks with mobility and creativity, and San Francisco has a championship-level supporting cast. While Brock Purdy remains the short-term starter when healthy, Sanders could be the ultimate Shanahan project, a high-upside arm who can stretch the field and add a new dimension to the offense's red zone dynamics. The 49ers have the coaching, the playbook, and the offensive pieces to turn Sanders into a star rather than stash him. Bottom line, Sanders' rookie tape and preseason flashes prove the talent is real. The question is fit and opportunity. Cleveland may opt to keep him, but if they don't, a trade could be a win-win. The Browns gain draft capital or roster flexibility, and Sanders lands somewhere he's actually going to throw to real receivers, not equipment guys. Who should make the move? Comment which team you'd send Sanders to and why.